and speaking to people on the streets and the beaches of Israel to ask them why their support is still so strong.
This was the carefree scene on Tel Aviv's beaches today. The war a world away. For battle-hardened Israelis here, life carries on, beyond the reach of Hezbollah's rockets. But a mood of militancy simmers close to the surface. Even the bikinis are camouflaged. No chance of this lot being driven into the sea without a fight. As the destruction in Lebanon draws mounting international condemnation, Israelis are turning in on themselves. The debate centres around how best to fight the war, not the human cost of it, and anti-war voices have been completely drowned out.
It's their fault that Lebanese civilians are being hurt.
Their fault, nothing to do with the Israeli army or air force?
It has nothing to do with the Israeli army or the air force. They hide inside the civilian population. They know that the civilian population will be hurt, and they still fight this way. Why don't they fight directly against the Israeli army instead of hiding behind women, innocent women and children?
No concern to the Lebanon.
You don't care what happens to the people there?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing at all.
Even if they're killed?
No.
These are this weekend's national newspapers. The coverage reflects a pattern consistent since the start of the war. The focus almost exclusively on Israeli fear and suffering. Take this newspaper, Yediot Aharonot, the country's biggest selling. Not a single mention here of Lebanese casualties or the plight of civilians. The war the rest of the world is seeing is far removed from the war detailed in these pages. There's a strong sense of moral clarity here, that this is a just war against an evil enemy. And if there's civilian casualties, well, that's war. In this fractious country, polls regarding the anguished Palestinian issue are often deeply split, but the nation's united over Lebanon. A poll in Yediot this weekend showed that 92% of Israeli Jews believe the operation is fully justified. Such a consensus is unprecedented. The strength of support is reflected in the television coverage too. The humanitarian cost of the war in Lebanon, if it's covered at all, tends to be buried down the bulletins.
It is only logical that in Israel you open the news with the rockets that came down on Haifa, on Nahariya, on Akko, on Safed, and not the bombings in Lebanon and Beirut, which also get covered during the main edition.
Plenty of this then, Israel's heroic soldiers on the front line. But little of images like this seen regularly on international channels. All this raises an important question. How can Israelis make a balanced judgment about the war without full information at their disposal? Political voices of dissent are rare, even in a country that once prided itself on a deep sense of moral conviction. One man who is speaking out is Amir Harel, the Jewish producer of the Oscar-nominated Paradise Now, a film about Palestinian suicide bombers. He signed a joint anti-war petition with a group of Lebanese film directors. So do you think people have become numb to the violence, numb to the deaths?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. They don't care anymore. Everyone becomes here a political or a military expert. And it's all about targets and outcomes of military actions. But nobody cares about the casualty. Nobody cares about the humans involved in that. As if it's out of the equation. It's about winning a war, no matter what.
Those lonely Israeli voices of dissent are now warning that Israel is at a moral crossroads. And if there's no shift away from war as a first resort, then normal life will never be possible here. Inigo Gilmore, Channel 4 News, Tel Aviv.
The view from inside Israel. Just before we go,